Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not, and welcome back finally to the Smallville Retrospective. It's been a while. I feel like I said it every time I go between seasons, But I didn't know what to do. See, I finished December. That's all done and in the can. I finished the Christmas stuff. That's done in the can. So, naturally, I should just relax and take a break. But when the hell do I do that? So instead, I decided to go through season 5. What the way that I do that is I try to not watch, but like pay attention to where the Talkville podcast is. And so I'm usually when I get towards the end, that's when I start cranking these out again of the season. They're in episode 20. Like, ooh, yo. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I do need to crank these out. So, yeah, you'll be getting the December Christmas stuff later. And you'll be getting these cranked out daily for more content. Do it for the content. So, we are on season 5, episode 1, Arrival. Picking up where the last one left off, the meteor shower happened. Clark was sent to the Arctic. And we find out also that Chloe is also there. And Jason had the Kent's at gunpoint before the meteor shower started to crash. And yeah. So it starts with Lana. Well, actually, the episode starts with Clark in the Arctic, walking around. He has the crystal. He throws it. Out comes the Fortress of Solitude, finally. I like this scene because it was around this time that I decided to start watching the old Superman movies. There's a lot in common with this scene and the scene from the Superman the movie. This is why I kind of did a background now. There, I added the 2 Christopher Reeve Superman movies up there because I feel like those are the ones closely connected with this. So, and this is also getting close to when Superman Returns comes out, which is no reason why I want to watch those movies, just in case, This is pretty good. Not a 1-to-1, not like a shot for shot, but it kind of goes back to. He comes in, he's looking around. He says, I thought Krypton was dead. Krypton lives on through this, But like, we get the opening credits after it's erected, and we get a brand new opening credits. It starts with Clark saving that little boy at the beginning of, I think it was in the season 4 finale. Actually, he saves the little boy, and then the Smallville logo comes across, and now it's intermittent with them. You got clips from the show with them spinning around a little bit. Yeah. Cast changes. Well, Jensen Ackles obviously is no longer on the cast because he was now on Supernatural. And Erica Durance, is now a regular as Lois Lane. That's the only big change. Yeah. So the first episode is basically a what happened to everybody episode. Season premiere does that. It's like, where's everybody now? What happened? That sort of thing. So it's basically that, Then we get Lana, who wakes up and there's an alien spaceship in front of them and two Kryptonian alien people. Later called the Disciples of Zod. Let me tell you, just watched through those movies around this time, and I got the DVD set, and you see John Glover as Lionel Luthor turn around. He's now like got weird glowy eye powers or whatever after the old thing after the stone got him. We found out later he's an emissary for Jor-El, but he turns around and looks at Lana and goes, the disciples of Zod. And I'm like, oh. But they're not Ursa and Nan. They're, what is it? Namek, which somebody's a Dragon Ball Z fan, and something or other. And yes, I will be referring her to that. Namek and something or other. Which something or other is actually played by a lady with a very long Mexican name, who I know. She's from Law and Order. Law and Order ladies in this show. What? Why would a Law and Order actor be on a superhero show? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, she sees this and yeah, oh yeah, it's, you know, she doesn't get away. She must get away because they end up in the cave. So, well, because the military starts shooting at them, and so I think that's how she runs away. She eventually finds, Lex eventually finds her, but we go back to the caves, and Lex wakes up. Chloe's nowhere to be found, and I'm a little out of order, so forgive me. A lot of stuff happens in this. It's catching everything up. It's basically kind of like the season 2 premiere, but instead of a tornado, it's a meteor shower. Kind of like that. They're kind of picking up, and things are. It's, you know. But anyway, so he wakes up, and he's looking around. He sees the key in a little thing. And I know he gets interrupted by the disciples of Zod. You know, Namek and what's-her-face. And, no, something or other. And something or other. And, but why didn't he say, oh, it goes in there, put it in, and see what happens? He doesn't because plot point. But, yeah. So he turns around and he sees this, and are you Kal-El? And Namek, like, or Namek grabs his neck, and she's like, he is not Kal-El. Kal-El will not bleed. Excuse me? Yes, he fucking would. And let me tell you why. Because Kryptonian on Kryptonian violence results in blood. I've seen it. So he would absolutely bleed from another Kryptonian. I'm just saying. Just saying. But yeah, and then like, oh, we need Kal-El, and they... Did they take his key? Because he's got the key. And they take off and end up with Lana again. I don't know. I missed something. I don't know what it was. They end up with Lana again. But anyway, Lois shows up at the Kents. And I'm like, is this because everyone else was too busy to find the Kents? Because like, Lois shows up and she's yelling. And you hear like Clark going, Martha! Martha! And it mainly makes me go back to Heavy Superman. Martha! Why did you say that name? I did that. He's like, Martha! I'm like, why did you say that name? No, Lois comes in. She starts yelling for Martha and Clark. And Jonathan says this. He goes, oh, Clark's not here. He's fine. Okay. Clark's not here. Doesn't mean he's okay. Doesn't mean he's fine. He's just not here. You know, she thinks he's normal. So for all she knows, he's not there, but could have got squished it by a meteor or something, you know? I'm just saying. Just saying. But this is where it's revealed that, well, they do find Martha. But no, this is when it's revealed that Chloe also went to the Arctic with Clark. And she somehow makes her way to the fortress while Clark is getting information from Jor-El about something. I don't know what it is that they get information about. They get information, and she eventually gets through to Clark, and he breaks free and has to take her away. And so Jor-El says, have back before the sun sets, the yellow sun sets, or I will strip you of your powers. So from a productive standpoint here, okay, you want him to embrace your destiny you have for him, which will include him using his powers. So how is taking away his powers going to help you? Let me tell you, it ain't. So you're kind of counterproductive here for the plan you want for Kal-El. Ain't ya? It makes no sense at all. No. So I don't know what this was, but it's an ultimatum. Sure, why not? Great. So Clark takes her to the Rugrat brain, hospital in the Yukon, apparently. Yukon. Isn't that Canada? Yukon. Because that's what Lex says later. Now, why would Clark be here? We're in the Yukon. I'm like, but that's Canada. Not the Arctic. Canada, right? The Yukon Territory in Canada. Jess? Is Canada close to Antarctica? I don't think so. I don't think the globe works that way. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know. It is confusing when you think we're a big round globe, but you look at the map and you think, so if you were to go at the top of Canada and walk a little bit, you'd end up in Antarctica? I don't think that's how that works, but the map shows that that's how it should work. It also shows that if you were to swim for the United States from Hawaii, you could be all the way over in Asia just a few clicks away. I don't think that's how it works. Like, if this is a globe, so it's probably roundular. That's not a word. So it goes around. I don't know, because it looks flat on the piece of paper. So, again, though, I don't think Antarctica, unless he flew, super sped from, he don't fly, super sped from the Arctic to the closest place, which was the Yukon, which, again, that's not the closest place. I guess no one lives in the Arctic, right? Antarctica. I don't know. But yeah, and he leaves Chloe there so he could go help his parents. He ends up home. Does he go home? He ends up at the hospital where he, the disciples of Zod show up, Namek and something or other. They show up and go after the Kents because they somehow know that they know who Kal-El is. They don't say anything, of course, because Lois is right there. And she crushes Lois's windpipe or something. That Lois's voice is kind of scratchy for the rest of the episode. No. And they eventually get a hold of Lana and take her back to Lex's place because she says she knows where Kal-El is. Now, this is one of the most confusing things in the episode. They get to Lex's mansion, and she points at Lex's vault. Now, we as fans know what's going to happen. As a viewer, know what's going to happen because we saw it from before, right? There's kryptonite in there. So, two things. How did she know there was kryptonite in there? And how did she know they would be affected by it? This is why I'm led to believe that she does have some memory of when she was in China, because that's when all that happened. So she somehow knew it would affect them. And it does. But then they throw the door back on. And the door was already torn off because Clark was there before. Right? Yeah. So they put the door back. And then Clark shows up. Lana's unconscious now because, of course, she has to be. And Clark shows up. They have a fight. And they say this. We can't destroy you. So we're going to send you somewhere no Kryptonian wants to go or something like that. Which is the Phantom Zone. They don't say it in so many words, but you see it later. Objection! Again, I don't know why the writer of this episode seems to think that Kryptonians can have no harm done to them unless there's kryptonite. Kryptonian on Kryptonian violence can happen, and they can beat each other to death. And as we know from future movies, Man of Steel, you can break their neck pretty easily if you're Kryptonian. So you can't destroy him or can't kill him. Yes, you can. Right? I'm just saying. So they open up the Phantom Zone projector thingy. and he almost sucked in, but there's a piece of rebar sticking out of the floor for some reason because he punched into it, and so now there's rebar sticking out for some reason. Is that the same rebar that would one day kill Dean Winchester if I was so supernatural? I don't know. It's sticking out pretty close. But no, he grabs onto it, and they don't even wait for him to go in. They think it's done. It's done. And they turn around for some reason. I don't know what we're going to do, but he grabs a hold of the thing, pulls himself out, and then they fight. He knocks them both in. And then it closes right behind them for some reason. It knew to close after both of them went in. Then it flies out the window. Yeah. So, yeah, Lex is going to have to do a window repair. So, then we cut to the Hopsicle in the Yukon, apparently. And Lex is there. Yep. And that's where we have the confrontation. She's like, Clark. He's like, oh, how could Clark be here? We're in the Yukon. And she's like, must be a dream. Nice. Yeah, there was also a scene I forgot to mention when he's in the hospital with Chloe. And, he's like, well, how did you figure out I had powers? He goes, well, I always suspected something. Running off at different times, the lame excuses. But I think it's when I saw you catch a car. And he doesn't somehow put two and two together that it was Alicia. He sort of went, Alicia. Because remember, the reason he was there is that he got a call from Alicia that she was in trouble. And next thing you know, he's catching a car. He couldn't put two and two together. Or they just didn't want to mention Alicia, maybe. I don't know. But yeah. It's a nice little scene. We'll get more witty repartee from them in other episodes, but yeah. Now you have someone that knows again. And honestly, Chloe's handled better than Pete ever was, now that I'm rewatching through these. Pete, even when he knows stuff's going on, he's still not brought into stuff. Chloe's brought into stuff quite a bit, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it's this one where they show that Lionel's locked up, do they? Maybe. I'll throw that in there. I don't know. But we cut to the Hopsicle again. The regular one in Smallville. The Kents are fine. We do see their house is shattered, but I forgot to mention, when Clark was brushing the glass off, this is the most realistic thing in the show, by the way. Because glass is terrible, right? You can't even barely brush a little bit. No, Jesus. So yeah, he's brushing it off and he goes, and he starts to bleed because he missed the deadline, which the sun was still setting. He could have just super sped to the fortress and Bob's your uncle, but yeah, whatever. No, that's enough. Because in TV shows, the sun sets really fast, So, yeah. So we get this little scene at the house where he's like, where John's like, well, maybe I can get things back to normal. He's like, well, it's probably going to be more normal than before. I lost my abilities, is how he says it. I'm like, powers. Just say powers. I lost my abilities. And this is the one line that I'm going to keep going back to. When even Smallville fans say that the cameo in Crisis was not in character for Clark, I will call bullshit and say this. Because he says, all I've ever wanted is to be a normal person. Now I get the chance. People are like, oh, he wouldn't give up his powers. Not if Lex was president. Lex was president, he's still dangerous. He would give up his powers. For love? Yes, he would. Although I think Superman Lois has proved that he could still have kids with Lois. With powers. But, I think maybe he got rid of the powers so that they could have kids so the kids don't end up with powers. Because I think if he's depowered with the blue kryptonite, people are like, oh, it's the gold kryptonite, which we will have later. But didn't that also kill him? Or this takes away his powers permanently? He has the watch. I think it's a gold krypton or a blue kryptonite watch. Whatever. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, so he's normal now. And Martha's all worried about, oh, well, you're normal now. You can get hurt. So is everyone else on the planet. And they can get hurt. You're worried about him. I know he's your son, but still. Yeah. And then he goes to see Lana in a hopsicle. I'm going to keep calling it that. And we get a little back and forth with Lois about she can't talk. He goes, oh, that's a pity. You know. But he brings in the flowers to Lana. Lana is reading a newspaper that confirms that the Teagues are both now dead. And Lex says, you owe me. Apparently he made it appear as if the meteor shower killed Genevieve, at least. I'm assuming that that big-ass meteor fell on Jason. And I know he was on Supernatural, but I was waiting for an episode where they had Jensen Ackles guest star, and actually he's been a part of Lex's 33.1 as an experiment, and he's got meteor powers or something. But that never happens. That would have been interesting, you know? Bring him back in the final season, sort of. You could do the Metallo story with him instead of the actual Metallo. You know? Like, he's the prototype for the eventual Metallo instead of trying to shoehorn every single Superman element in here. Speaking of which, Lana tells Clark about the spaceship. They do get back together here. She's like, oh, it's because of what they said before. You were saying some weird things. He goes, well, you know. He goes, I get it. You say some weird things that you don't mean. She goes, Clark, I meant every word. Did you? And I'm like, I just want him to be like, go in for a kiss and then be like, or get the kiss and be like, nah, and walk off. No, he didn't do that. They kissed and they're together now because Clark's human now. And, but she tells him about the spaceship. So the next scene, he shows up where the spaceship was and it's gone. But it's revealed that Lex now has it, and this black goop comes out, forming a human that's James Marsters, you know, Spike from Buffy. One thing I thought about when seeing this is they shouldn't have showed who the person is. They show forming a person from behind, then end credits. You shouldn't have shown his face, because that immediately casts suspicion on the character that's going to show up. Whereas, if you're, you know, have it later revealed that he's this character or something, I don't know. But yes, a decent episode. I will give it 3.5 Superman logos out of 5. It is decent. It's right in the middle there. It's not bad. It is your standard season premiere episode to catch everything up, wrap up the stories from last season, and then we're going to move on. Yes, college awaits for this season, and then they drop it. They tried. It probably didn't work. But yes, we're now back on the Smallville train. I will try to crank out as many as I can in a day. We shall see. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this episode? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.